Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Token By Friend and says, am I the a-hole for not having my niece be the flower girl at the wedding? I am bi, hence the name. I am a woman. The person I'm engaged to is also a woman. This is relevant because my sister Amanda hates both things. She and her husband John are both homophobic, so during the process of planning our wedding party for our wedding next May, the idea of having my niece be the flower girl was never even brought up. Instead, we pretty quickly chose my fiance's little cousin for that role. My sister found out that her daughter isn't going to be the flower girl and is absolutely livid about it. She insisted that my fiancée Jane had forced me to choose her cousin over my niece. That my niece was the obvious choice and I should change it. You may say, why not just have two flower girls? Well, I suggested that as a compromise to Amanda, but she hates that idea too. The main issue I have with making my niece the flower girl is that I can't be sure she will even be there. To be honest, I didn't even know until recently if they would even come to the wedding at all. Still not sure honestly. Their tolerance levels fluctuate on who they've been around, and even if they did, I would have assumed they wouldn't want their daughter a part of it. Who knows if everything will be fine leading up to the wedding, and then the day of, Amanda and John decide to be homophobic. I know I sure don't. Somehow my sister has got my parents on her side, and my mum says I'm being bitter because I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding. I'm pretty sure that that's not it, though I was hurt at the time to not be invited. Part of me still is, but I don't think I would try to punish my niece over it, which seems to be what my mum is trying to imply. And we're going to start straight in the comments with Sport Ancient, who says, not the a-hole. You were more than gracious by offering to have two flower girls. The fact that they demand their daughter be the only flower girl suggests it's just a power play against your fiancé, pulling one over on her by getting her pick for flower girl ousted, not a sincere desire for their daughter to be included in your joy. The fact that they don't actually support your marriage, aren't rooting for your success as a couple, and didn't invite you to their own wedding just affirms that you have no obligation to even invite them to your wedding, let alone change your ceremony to suit them. Get Strong and Lean says, not the a-hole. You offered a compromise by agreeing to have both your niece and your fiancé's cousin as flower girls. It's not as if you are banning your sister and niece from your wedding. Considering how homophobic your sister and brother-in-law are, your parents should be happy that they're even invited to your wedding. Tell your sister to kick rocks if she still tries to push you. From the way you describe your sister, you probably are better off if she doesn't come to your wedding. Also, why is your mum not okay with you having two flower girls? If your mum was supportive of your sister's decision to not invite you to her wedding, then she should be supportive of the decisions you make regarding your wedding. Opie responds and says, oh no, sorry, my mum thought the two flower girls option was fine, but she adores my niece, which is fair, I do too, so I know that her bias has at least some part to do with her siding with my sis, and to be fair, my mum also was upset about me not getting invited to my sister's wedding. Kelsey says, not the a-hole, but also why is your homophobic sister even invited to your wedding? You don't need that kind of toxic bullcrap around you for a day of celebration of your love. Gross. I hope she stops being so awful someday. Opie responds and says, I don't know. I didn't come out until I was 20 and she was my best friend up to that point. Like I said, their tolerance fluctuates. Some days are better. It's been almost 10 years and I just got used to it, I guess. It helps that no one else in my family is the same way, but I also hope she stops being that way someday. And one more comment from Salty Danger Hands, who says, not the a-hole. Your wedding, do what you want. Why the hell are they invited? They're not only homophobic, gross by the way, but they also didn't invite you to theirs. Why the hell would you include them? You really want to spend that day in particular knowing exactly where the disapproval is coming from. F those guys. I know that's not what this is about, but honestly, no one is the a-hole for wanting who and what they want at their weddings. Sometimes for how they go about getting it, sure, but not for wanting it. It's theirs. Or in this case, your day. Uninvite the pricks and tell anyone that tries to give you a hard time over it that siding with homophobes in regards to bisexual people's wedding is a bad look, no matter how hard you squint. I'm baffled that you put up with this in the first place. And I gotta say, I was also thinking along those lines in this particular post. Sure, you don't want to punish the niece because obviously OP loves the niece and they would like them to be a part of their wedding. I guess they could probably still try and invite them in a roundabout way, but you don't have to invite your sister to this wedding. This day is about you two showing love to one another, which is something, in your words, she hates. And I kind of think, I always know it's very easy for me to say outside of, your family situation, why would you want to be around someone like that who's only going to damage you, thinks about you this way? But anyway, OP came back in with an update 2.5 years later and says, "Hello everyone. A few years ago I posted this here on Am I the A-Hole about my sister making a fuss about my niece not being the flower girl at my wedding. No one has asked for it, but I wanted to share this update anyway because you guys really helped out a lot. So I took a few people's advice about having both my niece and my then fiance's, now wife's, cousin being the flower girl without letting my sister know there would be two. The day of the wedding and only my sister and niece showed up. Brother-in-law was nowhere to be seen. My sister was a little surprised about the two flower girls, but then surprised me even more by talking about how having two was such a cute idea. My sister was super sweet all through the reception. I felt like I had my old sister back, which was so nice. We had a chance to talk in a way that we hadn't in years, and we spent a little time going over the whole flower girl thing, and my sister was embarrassed and apologized. Without getting too much into things, my sister left my brother a few months after our wedding, and she confided in me that part of her decision came from seeing how differently my wife interacted with me and our family members when compared to her husband. Basically, ex-brother-in-law was not a good person to my sister, an understatement, and she is so much happier now. She's like she was at the reception, like my old sister who is full of life and caring and sweet and an absolute awesome mum. But the biggest reason why I wanted to share this update was because my sister and I have had a lot of long talks since the wedding and the whole flower girl ordeal. All of it stemmed from my ex-brother-in-law and his a-holishness. He did plan on causing a scene by not allowing my sister or my niece to come to the wedding. Apparently it was like a 3-hour fight before my sister was able to leave for the ceremony. The biggest surprise came when we had a long talk after her divorce started. Me, my sister and my wife. My sister kept asking a lot of questions. Most of them centered around us being women who are bi or attracted to women. The next night my sister came out as bi to both of us. 3 weeks after that, without knowing our sister came out, our younger brother came out to the family as pan. Anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone for their advice and their kind words. I have my best friend and sister back. I'm so very happily married to the most awesome woman in the world, and I get to go with my best friend, my awesome wife, and our super cool pan brother to Pride this year. Things are getting better. It's okay to give people you love a chance. And people were questioning about the sister not inviting OP to her wedding, and OP responded and said that's still an ouch area for us, but 100% because of the influence of X for the no invite. I'll probably be maid of honor at the next one, lol. On a serious note, from our discussions afterwards, there was a lot of internalized homophobia that developed when she was first questioning. It got worse over time. I think my own coming out actually triggered it to get worse, and then she met her now ex, and he really did make it exponentially worse, because he would feed into those internalized feelings and make her feel worse and worse. And part of her own actions and words were, I'm sure, to play into the narrative that her ex-husband established. It kept the peace at home, behind closed doors, and he got into her head so bad she probably started believing it herself at some point. So then the comments were like, so did your sister apologize for leaving you out of her wedding? And OP responded saying yes, she has. There was a lot of painful discussions and healing that I chose to leave out of the update for the sake of brevity. Maybe I scapegoat my ex-brother-in-law for things that I know my sister did participate in, but again, without getting into it too much because it's her story to tell and not mine. He got in her head and changed some wires. Fear and manipulation and control can make you do some crazy things, and that man had a way of instilling fear and manipulation and terrible control over her. I only wish that she hadn't had to live like that for so long as she did. And thank you. I'm so very happy to have her back. And then there was a comment which was from another bi woman with a homophobic family, and they said, sending all the hugs. I think people have amazing capacity to change. They don't always, but they have it. I don't know your situation with your family, but I'm assuming that you love them like I love my sister when she was going through her, quote, homophobic phase, which we joke about it being now. I got a lot of advice to cut her off or to not invite her at all. And I appreciate that because I knew they were looking out for me, but I knew that somewhere deep down my sister was still the same person she was when she had been my best friend. It took years for her to get out of that toxic pit she had been in, but she got out. I like to think she would have, even without me around, but some days I think she wouldn't have if I cut her off. It would have fed into the lies of her ex and the lies of her own brain was telling her. I hope your family are able to see through the lies of hate and fear someday as well. Wishing you and your gal pal all the best and thank you so much. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from a throwaway account and says, am I the a-hole for making my stepmom look crazy so I can avoid babysitting her kids? I, 16 female, live with my dad. My mum passed in a bad accident a couple of years ago. My dad met Josie in a grief group or something like that and they got married last year. Josie has 2 kids, 8 male and 6 male, and I hate living with them to be honest. 8 male has like really bad ADHD and is constantly accidentally breaking things, making messes and has meltdowns over the smallest things. 6 male is kinda similar but not quite as bad. They both get into my room and take things or break them. I babysat them once when our parents were dating and I'd rather jump off a building than ever have to watch them again. I swear to God. Josie offered to pay me when they were dating but I said no. Now that we all live together, she'd been trying to make me deal with them more and more, usually while my dad's not home. My dad thinks I should bond with them more, but he said I don't have to babysit. Josie keeps trying to pull the just watch them for an hour while I go to the store, or loading me up with chores since I'm not watching the kids. I have chores that I do already, so it's not like I'm doing nothing. I just want some time to myself on the weekend. My dad doesn't see it happen, so he thinks I'm exaggerating. I have the smaller bedroom in the house we moved into, but I found out when I was putting stuff away that it has a hatch into a side attic. Nobody else knows about it. I've started keeping stuff I don't want anyone else to get in there, and it's big enough that I can spread out a blanket and some pillows and read or work on my laptop in peace. I had the idea to just go in there and avoid Josie when my dad's not home, and it worked. She called for me and came looking for me but couldn't find me. My dad texted me and asked where I was, and I told him in my room and dropped my phone location for him to see. Josie still couldn't find me, but I slipped out before my dad came home and was lying on my bed with a book when he got there. Josie got big mad, asking where I've been, and I said in my room. My dad showed her the location I sent when she said I was lying and snuck out. Now they're arguing because Josie insists I wasn't in the house, and my dad thinks she's lying and taking it out on me because I wouldn't babysit. I do feel a little bad now because I am making Josie look kinda nuts, but I also don't want to babysit or spend my entire Saturday doing chores. Am I the a-hole? And Opie edits the post to give some additional information and says edit because questions in the comments. I'm not allowed to have a lock on my door and got in trouble for blocking it to keep the kids out. Josie flat out lies to my dad when I refuse to do what she wants while he's not there, and until now he believes her. And I've gotten grounded for being disrespectful to her, even though the only thing I did was say no. I've tried having a conversation with both my dad and Josie together, and my dad separately, and she denies everything, and my dad thinks it's just because I don't like the idea of stepfamily. Nobody listens to me. I think what I'm going to do, since now he thinks she's lying and is wondering if she actually has been punishing me for not watching her kids, is keep my stuff hidden in the attic and not go stay in there for a while like some people suggested. I'm going to try and record Josie, but I think I might talk to my coach at school too, because she's been noticing that I'm losing weight and gassing out too fast at practice and asking if everything is okay the other day. Maybe she can talk to my dad about it since the stress is affecting my training, or figure out who to get involved that my dad would listen to. Now, before we get onto the main problem, can I just say how awesome it would be to find a little hidden secret space in your room that no one else knows about? I'd fill that with pillows, some little fairy lights in there, just a proper little chill zone. But like probably the comments are going to say, I wouldn't use it too much if you do want to keep it a secret, because otherwise someone will find out, and they're very likely to find out one day anyway. And as for the babysitting the children, That's simply not your responsibility. And maybe the coach thing will help if you ask your coach to talk to your dad, or just really trying to be firm with your father and having that heart to heart with him, saying it's not working for you, this is what's happening, and it's really upsetting you. The fact in your last edit you're talking about the stress and it's affecting your weight and stuff like that as well is really concerning. So please do reach out to your dad and let him know your concerns and express like you did in this post. It's not that you don't like the idea of a step family, it's just you feel that you're being manipulated into doing things that you don't want to do. And I really hope things do work out for you, OP. But let's check out some comments from Holiday Cat, who says, "Lol, you're so not the a-hole. This is golden. They're not your kids or siblings. You didn't ask for any of this to happen. And your free time / study time should be the first thing that was considered in this move. You might want to say something to Josie like, I've done my chores, I'm going to my room now, I have work to do, and I'd like to not be disturbed until X hours, rather than keep up the attic hideaway thing, because I can see that ended up being all your fault when it gets found out. Study hard, focus yourself on your future. Hopefully you can soon get to college or whatever and leave Josie to look after her own kids." A beer and a book says, "Not the a-hole, but don't do this too often or you'll reveal your secret spot. Josie needs to realize OP isn't on call 24/7 or at all to be her babysitting service. This is a tough spot for OP though. I'll try documenting her behavior for a couple of weeks and having a talk with your dad about Josie trying to unload parenting her kids." Literally Taken says, "Set up a hidden camera with audio in your room on a day when you know your stepmother will act up. Aim it so it won't record you dressing. Ask your dad out for a coffee and then show him the proof. You want to talk to him away from the house so stepmother can't interfere in the conversation. Long term, aim it at the door to your room and you can catch the boys if they attempt to mess with your stuff. Don't hide in the hide hole again, please. It will only get you in trouble. Not the a-hole." Next Lime says, "As a stepmother, you are not the a-hole. And this is kind of funny, honestly. I would only feel bad for making her worry. Those children are not your responsibility. You should have a heart to heart with your dad. Bonding is one thing. Caring for / parenting is another. And you shouldn't be obligated. You are 16 and those are not your children." But now I'm going to turn this to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? What would you suggest to OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now this next story comes from Evenstring3530 and says, "Am I the a-hole for calling my mum when my husband refused to listen to me? I, 26 female, recently moved into my first home. I'm also 4 months pregnant with our first baby. The pregnancy has been very hard. I have horrible morning sickness. It reached a really bad point where I passed out and hit my head, and my doctor admitted me to the hospital for a week. When I got home, my husband allowed his brother's family move into 2 of our 3 bedrooms. They were evicted, and I don't know why. One room was my office, was tossed into our room and papers everywhere. The house was a complete wreck. Trash, dirty clothes, used diapers. I started to cry. It was like a light flipped and my husband was no longer the same. My husband told me it wasn't that bad. My reply was, fine, then you should have the house cleaned up before I wake up. Completely exhausted, I fell asleep for 4 hours. I woke up and went to get a drink of water. I couldn't because every glass we own is scattered around the house. They didn't clean a single thing. I passive-aggressively started to pick up the dirty dishes and wash them. The following morning, I was trying my best to work when the kids were crying non-stop, banging the walls and so on. Their mum was in her room for hours ignoring them. When my husband came home, he was upset with me how I didn't make his brother's wife feel welcome in our home by helping with their kids when she was tired, and continued to complain how nothing was done while he was at work all day in the house. Yep, the same one he didn't clean. That led to a fight where I told him, I'm too sick to have company and they need to leave, to which he replied they're his family and he won't kick them out. I started to cry again. I was beyond frustrated, exhausted, and I physically couldn't do it anymore. I called my mum asking if I could come stay with her, telling her the whole story in front of my husband, who at this point was completely shocked and angry. Also, I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. My mum came with my brothers. I have 3 older brothers. My mum, super angry, told my husband, since your family can stay, so can we. And my mum quickly took charge. I was sent to bed. My brothers started cleaning, complaining loudly at how disgusting my brother-in-law's family is, along with what a horrible husband my husband is for putting me through this while I am sick. I got a text from my mother-in-law calling me an a-hole for not helping my husband clean up the house and putting my brother-in-law in an uncomfortable position by having my mum boss him around. Edited to add an update. When my mother-in-law showed up, she was super angry outside. I could hear shouting but couldn't understand what was said. Once inside, she was shocked. My house looked really bad. My brother-in-law lied to her about what happened. My mother-in-law quickly started to help my mum in the bossing mode. My house is not just cleaned, but deep cleaned. My brother-in-law and his kids are now staying with mother-in-law. She didn't know about the eviction. My in-laws helped them financially a couple of months ago. My mother-in-law was not happy about it. Sister-in-law refused to come out of her bedroom. She would scream through the door, but that was about it until her family came to pick her up. Last little bit, I did talk to my husband. He seemed very remorseful. I asked for some space and he is staying in a hotel. He asked to come by and talk to me tonight. My mum and dad are here. Both mums felt like I should have someone here since I am sick. Both mums have set up a meal plan where they trade off who will bring in the dinner. It was my mother-in-law's idea. Thank you for all your advice and I truly appreciate it. The talk with my husband summed up since it lasted 4 hours. It was a hard talk. He is remorseful. Brother-in-law was only supposed to stay for a couple of nights, then leave. Originally, he thought they would be gone before I got home. He said he is tired and emotionally upset himself. When I originally passed out, my husband left to help a friend move. He came home and found me. He said he has no idea how long I was on the floor hurt. He was originally scared I had died. Since then, he had nightmares, on top of dealing with his family drama. He admitted to dumping his frustration onto me, when it's not my fault. He begged me for another chance. Next steps, we are still separated. He plans on staying at my brother's house in his casita. We're going to go to marriage counseling and individual counseling. He asked if he could come when the home health nurse comes each night and to my doctor's appointments, and I agreed to that. And an update on brother-in-law. His wife admitted to having an affair. She told him she got married too soon and doesn't want the responsibilities of being a mum anymore. I'm not sure what will happen with him and his kids, but I'm shocked that she feels this way, especially with her kids. I gotta say, I love the way that your mum came in and bossed everyone around like that. Absolutely needed, and I'm all for it. But like I say in many stories that we read, what was your husband thinking? So while you're in the hospital, he's just moved his family in. What goes through your mind thinking that's going to be a good idea? I know you said that you didn't think it'd be that long. And when confronted about it, sort of just like double down, saying it's my family, I can't kick them out, etc. Wow, wow, wow. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.